probably going to start the episode right here. And I'm going to start it by saying the conversation we just had, every time I sit next to this man for more than 5 minutes, I learn something new. So we clapping on the front and the back end. Pause. Welcome. This is Put It On Record, the podcast about DJing hosted by DJs. I am DJ Burn. Big shout out to Ricio, Don't Fret. And shout out to all y'all that came to Love Language each and every each and every first Saturday at Cure. We had a good time. We were running it back in March. There's a bunch of other stuff going on at Cure that we'll talk about eventually. But I have a very special guest here. This is someone
Where's the guest?
Someone I look up to.
Oh, me? Oh, wow.
Someone I consider a mentor and advisee. This man is a great resource, a kind person. You can also tell that he's a father and an instructor because he's very good at giving negative feedback in a positive way, which I love. That's important. Like having knowledge and not knowing how to communicate that effectively is pointless in my opinion. But yeah, great DJ, great person, Krate Digga.
What up?
We had an interview. It's not your first time on here, right? This is first time in here, but not the
first time in the studio, but this is the second and a half time on the pod.
So yeah, if you want to know about his history, upbringing, and all that, check out an older episode. It's still up right now. This is not what this conversation is about. This conversation is something that I wanted to do a long time ago. In the form of, it was just going to be a bunch of Instagram rants, but those aren't really effective. I wanted to talk about this in long form because it's important, and I don't want it to come off the wrong way. And I wanted to make sure that it's just educational and not just hating, because if you want a podcast about DJing where they just hate on other DJs, you can find those everywhere. Or you can just open Threads, because that happens all the time on Threads. This is going to be an educational podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of DJing, where it stands today, what's good, where we went wrong, what we can improve. And most importantly, if you're a DJ and you're listening to this, some of these things might apply to you. It might make you feel uncomfortable. But once again, this is only coming from a position of, I know we both care about the culture of DJing and the business, and the art form and hip hop in general. And we want to make sure that it's the best that it can be and that we do our part. And so if this applies to you, don't take it personal. This is for the culture. So I don't even know what the title of this is going to be. What I put on the note was bring back DJ gatekeeping. So it might be that, but this is what the conversation is going to be about. Just a quick backstory. This topic came up in my mind because recently, well, several reasons. Recently, there's been conversations online about how I think crowd goers have always had this opinion. But now DJs are saying that nobody wants to hear scratching when somebody's performing. And we'll probably just start there. I don't know how we got so far away from the culture that scratching is frowned upon, especially from people that consider themselves DJing. So when you hear something like that, like, don't nobody want to hear all that scratching, what do you like? What's your response to that?
My general response is to ignore it, because most times when people say it, I really don't know what context they're speaking of. And then I tell myself, like, you're probably speaking about a context where whoever was scratching was probably not doing it well. So if somebody cooks you a meal and they over season it, you're not going to say stop seasoning the food. You're going to say, hey, we need to be better about. So that lack of kind of nuance, which is a whole other conversation, is usually kind of how I process those things. With that being said, I recently did a Substack post, and I spoke about it in the context of how DJing, was around before hip hop. So hip hop did not start DJing, but I am not going to act like the current kind of larger context of how specifically club DJing and I don't want to say performance DJing, but like what we know as DJing minus, I don't want to say minus house, like they're not involved, but house has been pretty much consistent on how it presents. But kind of how, open format, wedding DJs, not so much. But anyway, not to be overly specific, but current, like how we see DJing, especially in social media spaces, is heavily, heavily, heavily influenced on hip hop DJ culture.
Absolutely.
With that being said, this desire to remove the scratching element from it, I get it. Once again, if it's not good scratching, like if someone's not doing it well, I understand not appreciating it, not enjoying it. But what my opinion is, too often is, it's not easy to do well. So instead of doing it well, which means taking time, learning, failing, getting better, like instead of learning to do it well, let's just remove it. Because if we remove it, that's one less thing that I'm not good at that counts against my scorecard. So if we don't have to include scratching, then my scorecard evens me out with other people because we're taking these things that I'm not good at off the table. That is not a blanket statement about any and everyone, but my experience just is what it is. I often see that people remove these factors, these skill sets, and sometimes the core components of certain things because they're not good at them. Instead of getting better at them, we just remove the need to count them, and it allows us to kind of sandbag our scorecards, so to speak.
Yes, all of that what you just said. And I also want to say, just because, as I said before, a lot of this might apply to y'all out there. Don't take it personal. This is not personal, but if it applies to you, we're saying this because we want you to be better. And here's a great example of this. I've been DJing for 18 years. I can honestly say, to my detriment, I've never focused on scratching because I'm going to be honest. I got by without having to scratch because I would still get booked and I still make money, which I encourage all of you to not focus on that. If you love DJing and if you love the craft and the art form, focus on the art form because what you do at home when you're not getting paid tells me what you're passionate about. And for the longest, I was like, well, I don't need to scratch, so I'm still getting booked. No, don't do that. And I say that because I just went to NAMM, and what I got from that is that's cool that I got a bunch of followers on IG and people like what I do, but all these people that have a tenth of the followers I have are way better DJs, world-class DJs, and I want to be that. I'm probably never going to reach the level of all these Red Bull 3 style and DMC champions. Even talking to people like Mixmaster Mike, that's an alien. Like that's like saying, "Hey, I'm gonna be Jordan one day." No, you're not. But you can at least respect the art form enough to want to be better at what you claim to be passionate about. So the day I got back, every day for an hour at least, first thing I did, I asked certain people. Shout out to DJ Paz was one of them. I'm like, "Hey, if you are going to teach a DJ to scratch, and you want to give them a YouTube video." Show me what you would have them work on. I didn't tell him it was for me. I was just like, hey, I have somebody that's interested. He showed me this video that Shortcut made a while ago. And he was like, hey, just focus on the first 7 steps. The rest of the steps are like super advanced scratching. You don't need it. And then he sent me a video of Mixmaster Ice. He's like, this video is him doing 1 through 7, but just at a high level. Obviously, Ice been DJing longer than I've been alive. So he's like, don't worry about, but just know that these are all the techniques you need. And ever since that day, I've been working on just that. And it's funny that I compare my DJ career to me learning graphic design is that when I went to, I was doing graphic design for a long time and just teaching myself. And when I went to Clemson State, one class, I was like, oh, I'm doing all of this wrong. Like, I've learned to get by, but like what took 20 steps takes 3 if you do it the right way. The same thing after I watched that video, I was like, oh, I'm not, I can tell you this because and some DJs out there might know, I was never controlling me bringing the record back as much as going forward and not focusing on the fact that the sound I was looking for takes left hand and right hand coordination, doing different things at the same time. And once I unlock that, now the shit sounds way better. I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm making these noises DJing. So I say all that to say, to your point, just eliminating something because you're not good at it that's how you end up relying on the technology, relying on the sync button, relying on all these other things instead of using technology to be more creative, which is what we should be doing. And which is why I don't even want to get into the whole sync button conversation, but there are people that use technology as a crutch and there's people that use technology to be creative. And I think the problem, the nuanced conversation we're not having is that using technology like Serato, like controllers, as to be more creative instead of just doing the work for us. But this is going to turn into a 3-hour conversation if we just keep going on. So I'm going to go to the bullet points we got here. Once again, I'm not a professional, so I'm looking at my phone. Sue me. So let's start. The reason why I have you on here is because you've been DJing, I think, at least 12 years longer than me. 12?
I don't know. I can't remember exactly when you started, but
well, I've been DJing for 18 years. 07.
Yeah. So 2026 makes 29 years. So we coming up on 30 years.
Okay, yeah. So, obviously things were a lot different when you first started DJing. So
yeah, when I first started DJing, we couldn't see in color yet. Everybody saw in black and white.
Right. And then there was no video, and they had a little light bulb flash to take a picture. No.
Yep. Under the
hood. So once again, there's an episode about how you got into DJing, but you know, I would say back then, you correct me if I'm wrong, there was this term called paying dues. Like you couldn't just say, hey, I got turntables, hey, I got vinyl, I'm a DJ, book me. Like you had to pay dues. So tell me what that meant for you when you started.
So for me, my paying dues was a combination of practice, carrying equipment, learning how to set up the equipment, being on hand, like you mentioned in the last episode. Like if Sakari, who was in the crew that I was part of, he was the DJ who I spent the most time with. Like if he had to go to the restroom, I had to be ready to play at least the next song if he didn't make it back in time. Or if he's working in student life until 10, don't get off until 10 o'clock, I got to go up to the ballroom and make sure that everything is started and set up. So at 10 o'clock, when he gets off work and makes it over to the ballroom to start the party, everything is ready to go. There's already music going at a low level, etc. So paying dues for me was about doing those things that both taught me and prepared me to be independent, as well as lifted the labor load for the guy who was then spending time and investing in me without me, having to pay for time. And once again, I spoke about it in a lot of different places. But there's some nights where I would be in Sakari's dorm room for 4-5 hours just practicing. And then I would take my tape that I was recording my practices on and go back to my dorm room. But if I'm in his room 4 or 5 hours, 3 or 4 nights a week, he didn't ask me for a dime, ever. Didn't say I had to do this for him. Like there was no mandate. It was my desire, my interest, and the fact that I was serious about getting good, and along with some other things. But all of those were factors into kind of the paying dues. Isn't just about kind of being sunned or being subjugated, but it's about giving or developing a level of reciprocity, specifically with the people who are investing in you. I fully understand that a lot of times paying dues turns into like mean girls, bullying, like
because men can be mean girls too.
Yeah, like using it to oppress and suppress people. Like that's not paying dues. Paying dues is basically the same as, it's kind of like interest on a bank account. Like you got to have money in the account and you got to have it in there for a certain amount of time, and with that you accrue that interest. You don't get you don't just get to drop money in the account, no matter how much it is, generally speaking, and get this full interest. You got to accrue the time. You got to earn it. Once again, the way that some people say you got to earn things is not always right. It's not always logical. It's not always ethical. But generally speaking, like that's life. Unless you're really, really good. And even with that, I think people often underestimate how much support and investment other people give to folks who are really, really good at something. So the paying dues doesn't always mean like you got to be an indentured servant, but it's also about understanding, once again, when we speak about culture, like there's different things that make things culture. You can't just theoretically call something a culture and it be a culture. It has to have certain components. And inside of that, like those components and that structure and the culture is upheld and continued on through different aspects of the reciprocity of the community that makes up the culture. And paying dues is part of that. For me, once again, that didn't keep me from doing anything. It actually allowed me to get into spaces that I wasn't going to walk into on my own. Because once again, at the time, I was a no-name DJ. I was still learning. But because I'm here with Sicaria, I'm here with Rod Nice, and I'm able to get in, and I'm carrying equipment. I'm carrying speakers. I'm learning how to set stuff up. I'm there when they got to go to the restroom or when they want to step off the stage to go dance with the girl or whatever. So that paying dues wasn't about me being in the corner being mistreated. It was allowing me to get access to places and invest in the furtherment of my progression. It wasn't really my career at the time, because once again, I got into DJing because I was interested in the art form, not to become a DJ. I just kind of got into it, really, really liked it. And the many years of having all of these musical ideas in my head, and the opportunity to now learn the skill set, like you're mentioning about the design, oh shit, I've been doing this 20 steps, and it's really a 3-step process when I learned how to do it the proper way. So now that I have the proper skill set to take these ideas I've had in my head for years, and people saw he's, I don't want to say he's different, but it's he's not just copying what everybody else is doing. He's doing his thing. Some people resonated with it, some people didn't. But in the end, my voice is my voice, and I've never been, for better or for worse, I've never been one to not be the DJ and the artist that I am. I've just been several times where I do a show and people, they can't really say I'm not a good DJ. They may not like what I did, which is hey, all right.
Cool.
I mean, I dig it. It don't really have nothing to do with me, but so there's times where, I didn't get invited back places, or, some folks who, I guess from an objective perspective, you could say aren't as good of a DJ as me. When in the end, it don't really matter to me either way, but there's places I wasn't invited back, or I'm not invited back as often because my creative presentation is not in line with, but once again, so I say all that to say, in the aspect of paying dues, it's important, because if we feel like we can just jump in at any time, when you've put in this time, if you earn these things and somebody just walks in and takes it from you, we don't seem to have that part of the conversation. It's always about, and I hate to use, I'm going to say it, but I hate to use him as an example, but it's kind of 2012-ish. Kanye was talking about wanting to get into the fashion space and the whole why sway. And a lot of folks were I wasn't against it, but I also I'm recognizing how everything that is being said about his access is not about opening the door. It's about letting him in. There's a difference between letting people in and opening the door. And if we want to talk about opening the door, that's a different conversation than I want to get in. And you need to let me in.
You said so many things. I'm trying to process them all. So many great things. Let me not make sure I don't forget. So I'm gonna address the last thing first.
Mm-hmm.
I am torn between. Okay, I'll use this as an example. When people ask me "Hey, I want to learn how to DJ. Can you point me in the right direction?" I respond to all those usually just asking them what kind of DJ I want to be, and then giving them the information that they need, whether it's what controller to get, where to download music, whatever. 9 times out of 10, nothing after that. And at the end of the day, hey, I didn't lose anything but 30, 60 seconds of replying to a text. That one person that is going to run wild with it, shout out to A6 General, because he takes everything I say and uses it, and now he's, his career is progressing. That makes the other 9 people not responding worth it, is because I gave somebody the information that they needed. And in my opinion, that's how I'm opening the door instead of just letting people in. I can sit down with everybody that wants it, as long as there's hours in the day. But if you're not going to do nothing with it, then you waste my time. But for the one person that's not going to waste my time, I'd rather, keep shooting and find out who's going to return and with the information that I gave them. So,
So to that, real quick, also in my opinion, part of paying dues isn't always to the one person or to a godfather. Sometimes paying dues is about respect of the culture. And while I think there's different aspects and different subcultures that people kind of align with and see and have opinions about or whatever, but sometimes paying dues isn't about the people involved. It's the culture and this art form and this thing that ideally we're using to, whether it's to make money, feed our families, get girls, get guys, be famous, like whatever the reason is. It's like, if we want to make it super simple, it's gasoline. If you got a car and you want to get somewhere, like at some point you're going to have to put gas in the car. That's paying dues. You may not have to go to this gas station versus this one. You may go to a corner spot and get that watered down gas if you like, whatever. But at some point you got to put gas in the car if you want to get somewhere. And that's, in my opinion, once again, what paying dues is when it's done in a healthy context.
This is going to sound like a random pivot, but you know the power cable that goes into the back of PC and most common, like the power cord that we use for the S11. You know what the technical name of that is? Because it's the same one that's using that cord, and one of my homies, shout out to Kai, he's a photographer, videographer. He said it's like a certain kind of connection it is, but it's a standard connection that everybody uses. The reason why I brought that up is, as a DJ, why do you not know the difference between RCA, XLR, and TRS? This is what paying dues means. How do you not know what phone online is? How do you not know that turntables need to be grounded? And this is where you go paying dues. If the sound system don't work somewhere you're going, at the end of the day, it's like they're gonna blame it on the DJ. So why do you not know how to do that? Because you didn't pay no dues, and that's why I feel like back in the day when you had to pay dues, like you said, some people are trying to stun you. Some people are just trying to get free work out of you. I need somebody carrying my crates. Oh, you just a little nigga, whatever. But there are some people that is like, I want to see how bad you want this, and I'm not in the fraternity, so it's kind of like hazing, which is illegal. And I'm sure nobody I know that's in a fraternity has ever done that. But it's kind of like they're doing that because if they just hand it to anybody, then anybody can just come in this organization and misrepresent it and fuck it up. So it's like, I don't agree with hazing, and I'm not beating a DJ's ass. But what I'm saying is that, like, I can't even get people to say, people were like, hey, I want to learn from you. All right, well, just feel free. I'm not one of those DJs that care who's around them as long as you're not touching shit. Feel free to come watch me. Y'all won't even come to the club. You don't got to pay to get in. So all you really are spending is your time. If you got kids and all that, I understand. But at a certain point, we got to prioritize what you actually want to do versus what you want to say you want to do. I can't get people to come watch me at the club. You want to learn directly from me? Stand over my shoulder, look and ask questions. That, like, if you want to know, that doesn't bother me. People won't even do that. People usually ask me like, hey, having the DJ conversation, I send them the video to the Scratch documentary. I'm like, hey, watch this and let me know what you think afterwards. Like, you won't even sit down and watch a 90-minute video on YouTube. Like how do I know you're passionate about this? And that's what I mean by paying dues. You ain't got to carry my equipment. You ain't got to do none of that, but you got to show me that you actually care about DJing. Because if you don't, I'm going to assume you only care about what you can get from DJing, which is popularity or money. And most of the time, like I said, it's probably popularity because you're not really getting paid that much because you're not good at it. So that's why paying dues is important. And so let's talk about where we are now. Because I asked you, maybe like a year ago, I was like, what do you normally say when somebody asks you to teach them how to DJ? And I think your response is you ask them what kind of DJ they want to be. And that either makes it a short conversation or a long conversation, just based on, like, if you just want to perform in public, get paid, here's what all you need to do. I don't really need to invest no time in this because you can get away with doing the bare minimum. But if you want to, crate dig and learn about vinyl and needles and all that, that's another thing. Time out. Head shell cartridge, needle, tone arm, pitch adjustment. People don't know what any of these things mean. And I'm like, back to your point about paying dues, I started DJing right when Scratch Live came out. So I never had to play vinyl, but I want to, because it's like, I always use the photographer example as like, you can get a digital camera, be fine, but like, if you care about photography, don't you want to go into a dark room and develop film? Don't you want to see how using film versus using a digital camera, how it's different and the different things you can get out of it? Or do you just want to take pictures and make money and just be the man because you're the person with the camera?
So keep going.
No, I was saying, like, and so that is where we are now with DJing. People ask me, hey, can you teach me how to DJ? And I'm like, So what do you want to get out of this? And be honest about it. Like, if the first thing you say is, oh, I love music, oh, okay, cool. Because I love food. I don't want to be a chef. So why do you want to DJ? Like, what exactly are you trying to get out of this? And then I can just show you what controller to get and say, go crazy. Or I can be like, hey, come over here and sit down with me. And we can go over, as Don't Fret did, as Ricio did. This is a piece of vinyl. This is how it works with the needle. This is what happens with time code vinyl and Serato. And now this is phase. And more importantly, this is all the connections on the back of a mixer. This is what you need to know. And this is how controllers are same and different. We can go through all of that if you really care about DJing. But back to you. So let me say, so to what you shared, I think there's two main things that I want to touch on real quick. I think first and foremost, everybody has a different context of learning. So I think sometimes when we talk about learning these things, people want to know. I'm trying to be careful, not because I don't want to offend, but I want to articulate this well so I communicate it well. I think sometimes people want to know how to do things so they can do them. I don't think that's always the same as learning. So for example, to connect to the next point, once again, I'm coming up on 30 years of DJing. First 10 years of my career, vinyl. Like I wasn't using a laptop. I wasn't using Serato. I wasn't very, very rarely was I using a CDJ. Vinyl. The next 12 years, even though I'm using Serato and time code, I'm still using the time code record and the needle. So even though there's a shift, I still had to understand the turntable. Jump to phase, it's a little less, there's no needle involved with phase, but I still had to understand the turntable. So, controllers, if it's a non-moving platter, one less thing you got to worry about. If it's a moving platter, you have to understand that. And not just the platter, but also, once again, the physiology of the human body. So when you're applying how the body works to do these things, like, you don't have to be a doctor, but there's a reason why we scratch on a certain side of the record. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Or there's a reason why a lot of instructors ask you or tell you to put your hand at certain places on the record. That's not just cause. That's to optimize or maximize the proficiency and the efficiency of how the human body works with this piece of, the same way if I'm using a hammer. Like, if you understand the fulcrum, where are you going to hold the hammer? Or if you're going to swing a bat, like, where's the best place to hold the bat to maximize the power to swing? It's very similar in DJing. We don't always think about it like that, but like, those are the things that certain types of teachers know are important, that help you then just understand it, do it. It becomes a muscle memory. You don't have to think about it. But as you go up these steps, it's one less thing that you got to be worried about to go back and learn 15 years later, 10 years later. To that.
Hold on, before you get to the next point.
Yep.
If I could summarize, knowing how something works and learning it with the turntable is like, I know how the turntable works, but if I learn it, that means that when we go to timecode vinyl or phase or controller moving platter, since I've learned the turntable so much that these things are pretty much a no-brainer, because a better comparison might be driving a manual car versus automatic. Knowing how it works and learning how a manual transmission works makes using an automatic a no-brainer, because you know the foundation of it. You know inside and out, so you can apply it to something that's less complex. Pretty much. Okay.
I mean, and once again, I don't drive stick, but I understand how it works.
Yeah.
So even if I understand how it works, if I'm ever in a situation where I just gotta, I know that I gotta press the clutch, give it gas, off the gas, hit the clutch to shift. And you're gonna hear some noises and some rocky starts, but I understand the concept enough to know how to try to navigate this. Or when I'm working with some of my drumming students, I ask them, like, have you ever shot a handgun before? And they look at me like, what? I was like, when you hold a drumstick like this, you're not going to do well. You want to wrap your thumb around the drumstick the same way when you hold a handgun. You want to wrap your thumb around and not back behind the slide.
Right.
Because the first shot, you don't have a thumb anymore.
Right. Exactly.
So like just those once again, those making those ties are kind of just teaching people like how to do this, like how to do this. I don't want to say the right way because there's many right ways, but there are also a lot of wrong ways.
Absolutely.
And in a time where I think generally speaking, like anything goes, you can't tell somebody they're doing something wrong, or like if everybody can do anything. There's no rules. There's no, like, I get it, but nah, I don't agree with it because I think there are times where we're doing things wrong. We're doing things, I won't say bad because once again, that's a different term in my brain. But we're doing a lot of things wrong. And instead of being able to say, I'm not doing this properly and I want to do it the right way. Once again, I think there's a lot of different right ways. It doesn't have to be my right way. But once again, all of those things come to a divergence between, once again, from my perspective of wanting to do or be the thing or to have the title and do the thing and understand the thing. Because once again, like if I just want to make good food, like I don't got to learn it. Like I just got to find recipes and throw them in the microwave. I don't have to know nothing about preheating. I don't have to know nothing about braising. Like I don't have to know all these things, or like you said, I don't have to become a professional chef if I just want to make good food and do, I'm not trying to be funny or nothing. Like just do, I don't know. So I don't know. I'm gonna stop there because I'm not trying to be snarky about it.
Listen, I think where you're getting at is there are cooks and there are chefs. I think a chef knows more about cooking to be able to replicate, but also create. And the cook's just following. Like we can all get on Pinterest and like as long as you can follow directions, follow a recipe, then you'll be all right. And like some people, I think don't ever take the time to experiment outside of that. But that's a whole other point. Go back to what you're saying.
I'm sure there was something else, but we can keep it moving.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry that fast it came back to me. So I'm also going to give grace, credit, whatever. Like there's some people, once again, who, like for me, once again, in the context of me being a producer, I didn't have to learn how to cut and splice tape or do different things with a 4-inch tape. So there's going to be those folks who be like, yo, man, we used to have to do blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know nothing. I know how 4-inch tape works, but I don't know how to cut and splice tape. I can figure it out because I've seen, like, I understand enough of the analog technology and I've seen people do it. But like, if you sat up 4-inch tape and I needed to edit tape, we about to have a bad day. But I haven't had to learn that.
But at least that's even referencing though.
Yeah.
Like some people were just like, oh, I'm making beats and it's cool because I'm getting money. Like, but at least that there was something before this. Like, the person Pen and Pixel that made all the the album covers back in the day. Seeing how they put them together before Photoshop is crazy to me, and it makes me respect that more now. I mean, you can just go get a Photoshop pack that looks like No Limit Cash Money and type in whatever, but like knowing where it came from gives you more respect. Even if you don't want, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to cut this out and put it together manually because I got a computer. But knowing where it came from at least gives you a more respect for the art form or what we do.
Yeah, and so to keep it moving, but where I want to land my plane on this part is what frustrates me is the lack of acknowledging that things were different before and they're different now. They can be different, but they don't have to compete to be better or worse or whatever. And once again, old heads, young heads, everybody in between, in my opinion, is guilty of this thing. We can acknowledge that DJing now is easier than it was 20 years ago.
Yes.
They can be different. They doesn't have to be better or worse.
Right.
I think, once again, like the NBA in the 90s was different than the NBA now.
Right.
You may have one that you prefer. Like, we don't have to say which, like, one doesn't have to be better or worse, or we don't have to make it comparative, but we can still acknowledge that they're different.
Right.
And I think that's the problem. We always, especially in the social media space, there's this thing that I've noticed over many years that we can't just acknowledge differences. We always have to get towards a part of the conversation, and too often it becomes a rush to it, and it doesn't even have to be part of the conversation about then ranking things or making one better than the other instead of just acknowledging that there's differences and there are similarities and there's growths and there's all these things. It has to get towards, well, this is better than that because I ain't never had to who wants to carry all them records? Why would I want to do that when I could just walk in with my backpack and put my controller up and like, yeah, it's easier, but it's not the same.
DJing with vinyl is so fun. Like, it's so challenging that it's fun. But real quick, can you give me 2 or 3 ways DJing is different, easier, better, whatever, now than it was 20 years ago?
I can give you a lot of ways it's different. I want to say now there's a lot more ways to learn. Many years ago, and I don't mean that like years ago, but like if we just talk about the past 26 years, 2000 to 2026. Within that time frame, YouTube showed up in the mid to late 2000s. So if we talk about pre-YouTube, you could see a DJ doing something, and no matter how much you understood about DJing, you didn't always know what they were doing. So you had to either find a VHS or a DVD of a DMC or a show, or like you had to research and ask around and call the homies and do all these things to figure out like, yo, how did Rob Swift do? Blah, blah, blah.
Well,
like Rock Raider was like, how was he? So like this, the process of learning these different exposure and learning these different techniques is very different. Like now, once again, whether it's want to learn how to do something or see somebody do something, punch it in YouTube.
On your phone at that.
On
you
your
don't
phone.
Have to,
you don't have to go to the library or find or a record store or a clothing store and find the newest VHS of the DMC or, you know. So once again, the access to learning, to exposure, to seeing different things, hearing different styles, it's immense.
All that information and y'all so stupid. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Access to equipment. Once again, you know, we talk about even 2000s. You know, I started before the 2000s, but if we even talk about the 2000s, oftentimes turntables new was, you know, $600-$700 a piece. A mixer sometimes $200-$300 or more. So we're talking about $1,500 to $2,000 investment, like just to get equipment.
And that's before you get
to play any music on it, because now you got to buy the music. So even though, you know, once again we talk about differences, better or worse, I'll let y'all say, but you know, you used to be able to go to the record store and get a $3.99, $5.99 single of whatever hot song just came out.
Yeah.
Like I don't know where people are going to get $5.99 singles of the newest blah blah blah. They $15, $20. You know, you can get a whole album sometimes for $12.99. $15.99 was a lot for an album back then. Now you're paying $40-$50 for an album.
$40.
And that's like not just stuff I like, but like I gotta have these joints for the club. Like if I want to have this job and keep this job, I gotta have this, and this. So once again, part of the paying dues is getting the stuff to then do the thing. And the stuff to do the thing was more than $200 for a controller and my homie, copying me his hard drive. I'm not saying that to diss, because once again, my man, shout out to Brooklyn Butcher, my man Stan in 2007. He hit me up when I first got my laptop in Serato. He dropped 500 gigabytes of tunes on me, and then I started recording my own vinyl into. So I'm not against people helping out in community and all that, but once again, just having the stuff is a hurdle that is a lot lower now than it used to be. So just a couple of things that are different.
Back to paying dues. I think people, this is generally speaking, but this also applies to DJs. Before I go on, if you're still listening to this and you haven't turned this off, that tells me you actually want to learn something and you're not offended by something you heard because it applies to you. So shout out to you for listening to this whole thing, because this probably going to be the most educational podcast we put out thus far as what you could be doing better to be a better DJ. Paying dues. I say this, and I admit this. If it wasn't for Serato, I probably wouldn't DJ, because that took away one of the hurdles of having to go buy vinyl. I still bought turntables, and bought a mixer and bought Serato, but if I had to buy singles on top of that, like I don't know, and then having to carry crates. But I think in general, people just want the most they can get for the least amount of effort. So even nowadays, people are like, where you get your music from? Now you can go to a record pool online, pay $20 a month, download whatever you want, whatever they have on there. People are like, damn, $20 a month? I'm like, do you know how much this would cost if you had to go to iTunes and buy these songs individually? And plus you get the intro edit, clean, instrumental, acapella, all that. So people won't even do that. When it comes to controller, people are like, what controller should you buy? I'm like, well, to practice at the crib, this is all you need, a $300 controller, because it has the knobs on there you need. It has crossfader, upfaders, platters. That's all you need to learn. To perform, you need something a little bit more professional, probably has XLR outputs, probably has more than one USB if you're going to be DJing with other people, so it's a bigger investment. But this is only for the house. Don't take that $300 controller to the club because it's going to sound like shit, and it's just that right there, along with AI flyers, which I'm not even going to get into that. That tells me that you don't even want to invest in yourself, so you can't be serious about this. But back, like I said, paying dues. I worked 2 full-time jobs in the summer to buy my turntables. And because I did that, I'm like, I'm going to get the most out of this as possible. But like I said, nowadays, it's so, technology has made the barrier of entry low for everything, DJing, rapping, making beats, that I think people do it as a hustle or to make money or to get famous, and not because they actually care. And I feel like one of the questions I had is like, what changed the standards we have? And I think that's what it is. I think the market is flooded with people that just want to be the thing and not actually be good at it. What's your take on the state specifically of the DJ? I would say that not necessarily the culture, but the business of DJing today.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that question, and we'll start at a macro level and work down. I think first and foremost, from a macro level, human beings will do as little as possible to get as much as possible. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's a good thing. I just think it's a human thing.
Because you can be efficient with what you do.
Yeah. So
but some people just want shortcuts.
Yeah. So I think that, once again, I'm not going to say that all things are equal, but I will acknowledge that generally speaking, it's generally a smart from a human physiology standpoint to do as little labor as possible to maximize your output, which means, pulleys and, once again, I mentioned fulcrums and levers, like all those things.
Yeah, it's important.
The wheel, fire, like the human being has always found ways to make the labor less, but get more. So from a macro level, like I get that. I don't get mad at that. As we move down to it, I think part of what you're saying, and I agree with, is there's always been these things that people have been able to use to elevate themselves from them circumstances. Now, sometimes it's fame. Sometimes it's to have better financial situation. Sometimes it's to get away from unhealthy situation. So I'm not going to speak about the reasons. The access to things to better change our conditions is what it is and always been. As we continue to get micro level, DJing has become something that's now under that's below. We've dropped below the clouds now, and DJing is now in that space because, once again, I can get the controller. I can get either download MP3s for free, get them from my friend, like whatever
Ripping
that
off
is.
YouTube.
Yeah, so the access to the thing is now under the cloud line or below the cloud line, and now it's a viable mobility tool for people to do that. I talk about IQ to people often, and he's not the only one, but I tell people, and I've told IQ this, like, you got to remember that you're a Jedi. And if we go back to Star Wars in that cantina scene, like you walk in, meaning the characters, you walk in and the cantina's full of deplorables and criminals and killers and hijackers and kidnappers or whatever. But how many Jedis are in that cantina? of all of those people who are menaces and just bad men, them, how many were Jedi? One. Or maybe two. I can't remember if Yoda was with them at one point. But the point is, like, even amongst all these people who are really talented or really gifted or really love it or whatever, that doesn't elevate them to Jedi status. So when you have folks like IQ, Jazzy Jeff, Rob Swift, like the list can go on. Like when you have Jedi level DJs, they're always going to be like the aliens to the larger group just because they're special. Now, what they do with that speaks to who they are as people. But like IQ talks about and other people talk about, like, yo, man, I be trying to get these folks together and practice and this and that, and they just don't want it. And I just say, like, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but you're a Jedi.
Everybody's not a Jedi.
Everybody's not a Jedi.
Clip that. No.
So, once again, as a teacher, as a parent, as a mentor, like, I'm always working on being better at, regardless if I agree, trying to understand where you're at. Because once again, that helps me be a better teacher. So like if you're in it for this, unless I have a specific reason to be like, nah, I don't fuck with you. All right, well, this is what your goal is. This is how I can help you get to your goal. Now, your goals are your goals. My goals are going to be different. What I'm looking to do, how I want to do it, is me, mine, I, Krate. I can't teach you how to be Krate.
Man.
I can teach you how I look at things and how I work towards in my structure and creative development ideas. But in the end, like, that's me. So if you see things different, if you hear things different, I can help, but I can't create me and you type of thing. So I think to some of what you're saying, I've moved away from certain conversations, certain people, certain spaces, because not that I'm better than them, but we're not really having the same conversation at the same time. And that's fine. Because there's nothing like, there's no gold medal. There's no gold medal going into these spaces and having, like, to be the winner of the conversation.
There's
like if I don't eat pork, why am I going to the hog spot for the barbecue and then go in there arguing about, like, why y'all got all this pork? What, you ain't got no beef? If I'm vegan, why am I arguing? If I'm looking for pizza, why am I going to McDonald's and getting mad when I walk in and the McPizza's gone?
You what you just said, I think you articulated my entire feeling about DJing in general. There's so many different things that you just said, to the point where I wrote down on here, everybody can't go. Because, to your point, I've realized a long time ago, and I hope whoever I'm talking about is listening, because it applies to so many people, but it's not a personal thing. I realize that people just don't want what I want out of it. And that's fine. The most important point you need to hear is that that's fine. I don't care. I'm not judging you. I know what I want to do with this. If you don't want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I'm not holding you to those standards. I guess what I'm still struggling with is that I don't think they realize they don't want this. Like, they see something I'm doing, is like, oh, that's dope, I want to do that one day. And I want to be like, no, you don't. Because you're not putting in the work that I feel like is requiring. Not even that. Not that I feel like is required. Any work. It's just like, I don't know if I make it look easy or straightforward. Not easy, because it's not easy. I don't know if I make it look simple, because it's very complex. And I hope what I try to do is make people look at the things I do on social media and the things I do at parties and all that, is that, like, it's not out of this realm. Like, you don't have to be one of these aliens to do what you want to do. You just have to, what I'm trying to show people is that, you know, I grew up around the corner. I went to East High School. I'm from the city just like y'all. I'm just a regular guy. I put work in for the things I want, and it always bears fruit. Well, most of the time it does. So you can do this too if you sat down and put the same effort in or a similar effort or just any effort at all. And so that's probably where my frustration comes in, is that like when people say they want, the most frustrating thing that happens usually is that people tell me they want to do something, whether it's DJing, weight loss, career, relationship, finance. You tell me you want to do something, and then everything you do says the opposite. And I'm just like, no, you don't. You must be. I think you're lying to yourself because you're not lying to me. It's clear you don't want to do this. But before I
so two things. I hear you, and I'm not going to say that you're wrong or I disagree. But once again, because I'm a teacher specifically, I have learned, and I'm a student of kind of human behavior, because it helps me understand things that don't make sense to me. I'm very logic based.
This is important. This part of this is for me.
I'm very logic based. Okay. So when shit don't make sense, I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
It bothers me. And now I got to figure out what, and oftentimes I'm wasting energy in going down rabbit holes I don't have no business being down, looking for logic and things that don't make sense. I use that as a preface to say that, first and foremost, they say that many people have said, and it's been said, that professionals do things that are very difficult, and they do them and make them look easy. So you see LeBron shoot, regardless of how many people talk crazy from couches just like this, talk about they can beat LeBron in a one-on-one. Like, all he's doing is taking the ball and going like that, and like yeah, it looks like that's all you're doing, but it's so much more in becoming the Acme, aka top level, best in anything. You said something else that I wanted to touch on about people not. It'll come back to me. You
say they want to do something, but don't put the effort in.
Yeah. So to that, and there's a once again, I don't know the exact term, but that's once again, the human brain and physiology works in a way that's not always in our best interest. And once again, I tell people, once again, you look at me and you may not know it. I'm a drop a bombshell here, so everybody, brace yourselves.
Breaking news.
I don't smoke crack. I don't let people get on my nerves, and I have pretty good genes. That's why I look the way I look, like basically the same way I looked almost 30 years ago. With that being said, because I don't have direct knowledge of what cocaine use feels like, I understand that when you say and tell somebody you want to or are going to do something, your body gets an endorphin rush without you having to then do said thing. My homie's dropping the album. Yo, when that joint drops, I'm on it. And I feel great saying that I'm going to support my homie. Even if I really do want them to do well, if I never, ever buy that album, I've already gotten the payoff. I've already gotten the endorphin rush of saying that I'm going to support it. Or saying that, yo, I'm a run that 5K, or I'm a go to the gym, or whatever it is. And once again, I'm not saying this to be trite or to be kind of sarcastic, but when humans say they're going to do this thing, especially when it's what they see as a good thing or something that will make them better, the endorphin rush that's supposed to then fuel you to do it, if you get the rush and you're satisfied with the rush, you don't need to now follow through. So I say all that to say, I'm not going to say you're wrong or that I disagree, but I will, from my understanding of physiology, I'll say that there are people who may want to do what you do or do what they see others do, and from their context, that may be a true desire. But once again, I can't just say I want this or I want that. I want more money.
All right.
Now, all right, cool. Now what? So the hard part, and you talked about this with Rizio in a different context, is, all right, so now that I recognize this thing that I want to be different, what do I do? And that's where a lot of people get stuck. A lot of the people who I mentor in different facets, it's not their lack of desire to do the thing, it's their lack of understanding how to create the change. They don't know the structure, they may not have the discipline, they may not know where to start, they may not know who to ask, what to get, all of these things that, once again, are solvable I won't even call them roadblocks, but speed bumps, we'll say. They're things that you can surmount and get over, but if you don't ask, or you only ask one person and then they don't respond, Like, oh, I asked so-and-so 3 months ago. They ain't got back to me. All right, well, if they ain't got back, why the fuck are you still sitting around and not asking somebody else? Or going, so, hey, man, I'm really trying to get this thing going. I reached out to you. I understand life happens. So there's a lot of ways where we don't always do the thing that gets us the thing or gets us to do the thing we say we want to do. And I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, I just want to say I want to DJ and then like don't want to do no work. I think there are people who don't know who to ask, what to do, etc. And then, even some of the best kind of, I won't say best, even some folks who really have it together, I guess we can say in a general term, like analysis paralysis is real.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do so much research and so much digging and trying to get so much information on something like we know everything about nothing because like we got all the research, but we ain't tested nothing. We ain't tried nothing. We ain't done nothing to know or apply the research to. So I say that to say there's all these different contexts, and I don't think my experience and perspective is it's not as simple as like niggas ain't trying to do shit. Sometimes
that's fair.
I think sometimes like once again they want to do it in the least laborious way possible, but there are folks who don't know who to ask, or there's other factors that inhibit them getting to this thing that they really want. So
my only add to that would be, it's usually not a lack of knowledge. It's usually a lack of effort, and I think the motivation for the effort is where we need to. And like for example, I've said for the past 10 years that I want to produce my own project, but I also recognize that that's tedious, and I don't like doing tedious things. So for myself, I say like, oh, I don't really want to do it then. Like, because if I wanted to do it, I would just do it. Because it's not knowledge. It's just sitting down and actually doing it. Same thing with scratching. It wasn't a lack of knowledge thing. It was, hey, well, even if it wasn't a lack of knowledge, it was a lack of me going and getting the knowledge.
The application.
Yeah, exactly.
And so back to your point about things that are different, better, worse, or whatever from during the different kind of phases or generations or time points, like the access to the knowledge has drastically swung up versus before it was very hard to get. I won't say very hard. It was a lot harder to get access to certain information. Now, as we've been saying, like the access to the knowledge is so easy. And I think the inverse is like because knowledge was so difficult to find before, or at least in context, you had to do more to get it. And now that you have to do less, so like once again, I don't want to make it too deep or maybe it's too late, but like the inverse of those slopes. So now like we have to do less to get knowledge because so much knowledge is everywhere. Like now it's like, all right, well, if I got to do more than these 2 steps, that's too much.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be that much.
Because it should be easy because everything else is.
Yeah.
So there's really one last point I wanted to make. And this is not really like a Q&A type thing. I'm just going to vent. And
I'm here for it.
If you want to jump in, please jump in whenever. But how we started this conversation is gatekeeping and healthy gatekeeping. And I feel like we've gotten so far away from the bare minimum is getting so low. It's hitting the floor to where, and I'm specifically talking about DJing, specifically talking about newer DJs. I don't know if it's a lack of practice. I don't know what it is. Back in the day, years ago, you put in hours of work before you would even dare DJ in public. And now it's like, I got the controller, so book me. And it's like, or I'll DJ for free because I really want to get on. I want to prove myself. But you haven't practiced at all. And so I'm going to get very specific here. And this is my opinion, and you let me know. If you can't make it through an hour without messing up a transition, I don't think you should be asking anybody to give you money to DJ. I don't think you should be DJing in public. Because I feel like the foundation of what we do is we take one song and we get to the next song with a smooth transition, whatever that means. Whatever that means. And then, you take the next song and you go through it and it doesn't sound like a train wreck. I've heard so many DJs, whether they're opening, whether they're headliners, just slamming records. Not because I won't even say that, because there's a way to slam records creatively and make it a smooth transition. It'd be train wrecks. It'd be literally just, I want to play this next song. I'm struggling with the transition. I'm gonna cut the last song off, and I'm like, what are we doing? Because at that point, I don't even think you're a DJ. I think you are the physical embodiment of a playlist, and I just can either let the playlist auto mix or I can press next on it, and you just happen to be a smile in the face and standing behind the equipment. And I don't understand why we are letting this happen. And this is not a Columbus thing. This is not an Ohio thing. This is everywhere. Why, if you can't get through 1 hour, that's not even like back when, we had to do 4 hours by ourselves and with vinyl and all these other things. We talked this whole hour about how technology has made things easier or made us more efficient, and how it's been a crutch for some people. So, but with all this technology that makes things easier, because the computer on the screen shows you the BPM, it shows you, even the sync button shows you how to line things up. There's no reason why you should be fucking these transitions up in an hour. If you can't get through an hour, why do you dare ask somebody to pay you? Why does your ego tell you that that you deserve something over somebody else? There are plenty of reasons for this, but we got to get back to this. We got to get back to raising the bare minimum. Just, can you get through an hour? Everybody messes up. I mess up. I'm sure you mess up sometimes, maybe. Yeah. Everybody messes up. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about phrasing. I'm talking about coming in on the wrong count. Even something as simple as, I don't know why, maybe I'm more musically inclined than most people, but I'm not. Like, I think I'm tone deaf, but I know better than to cut a song off in the middle of the verse, because that's not how songs are even structured. Or if you're putting a song on top of a song, even with stems, which is a great technology if you use it correctly. If you have drums on top of drums and they're two different drum patterns, but it's the same BPM, why don't you know that that's not okay? Because people don't know what to dance to. Or if you're playing words on top of words, why don't you know that's not okay? Because people don't know what song to follow, what melody to follow while you're DJing. All this stuff, I feel like, is the bare minimum. And somehow we got away from that. And that frustrates me the most, because y'all look at me like I'm haters or like I'm crazy when I say you don't deserve this opportunity because you're not good enough. And I don't know if it's because you've seen other trash ass DJs get away with this, but not on my watch. And if this makes me seem like the old grumpy man, y'all can have that, because I've helped way too many DJs to let this shit continue. I think I'm done for now.
Okay. So I'll say this. I hear you, and I'm not going to say you're wrong, but I think for me, how I process it, once again, I'll just say when I started in 97, the role of, and even moving forward, 2004 when I was at the Red Zone, 2006 when I was at Cove, all these different places. Specifically before 2010, we'll say. Very specifically before 2010. The role of the DJ in these social spaces, whether it be bars, clubs, a little less online, because once again, seeing a DJ online was a very different experience in this time frame, and we might talk about that a little later. But so we're talking about pre-2010. The role of the DJ in these spaces was very different, in my opinion, generally speaking, than the role of the DJ now. There are still spaces where the DJ is the focus of and the driver of the social interaction of people, but very much since 2010, generally speaking, too often, the DJ is there to service the playing of music, to facilitate music in the space.
A utility.
Yes.
And not a creative.
Well, not even just that, but the DJ is there to make sure there's music playing. Gotcha. That music playing is not to then encourage the social community space to interact.
Got you.
It's to facilitate people coming out, to get them to buy drinks and come hang out and shoot their videos and selfies and all that. So, regardless of what I feel about it or my opinion about it, if me DJing in a way that's train wrecking and volumes, dynamics between each song because I don't really know what I'm doing, like, yeah, there's going to be people like, what's going on? And that don't sound right and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, these people keep getting opportunities because they're doing what whoever is booking them is asking them to do, which is we just need a DJ. We don't need you to really be good. We need a DJ, somebody who knows enough about the equipment to play the music. We don't really need you to know music or like to be an artist or creative, generally speaking. We just got to play these hot songs. People, so once again, I don't say that to say it's right or wrong or that it's bad, but my perspective is, like, there's plenty of spaces, whether we talk about Columbus or beyond, because they happen all over the world. There's, like, everything ain't the same. It's okay, once again, as I mentioned earlier, there's okay to acknowledge dynamic. You're going to go places, whether it's, I don't want to even name, like, venues, but you're going to go places where people expect you to be a dope DJ. Regardless of what you present, they expect you to present it well. The same way if you go to a restaurant and they slide your food off that tray on a styrofoam plate, does not matter how good that food tastes. You're going to be like, why the fuck is my food on a styrofoam plate? So I use that as a kind of linkage between, there's places that if you don't fucking do this art form right and present it in a way that we respect, because we've seen, regardless of who we like, who we don't like, and all these different experiences as individuals we have, people know, like, yo, whether I've heard of this DJ before, or Jazzy Jeff or DJ Scratch, or insert DJs that the world knows, like, people know when, like, yo, I this is my first time seeing you, homie. Where you from? Blah blah blah. You killed that shit. And then there's places where you go, but like, yeah, I mean, fuck, like, we just in here vibing. We just hanging out. It don't really matter.
It don't matter. Yeah.
So I think part of it, once again, is like, if I'm a race car driver, but I'm driving on 270, mad at everybody, fucking driving like everyday drivers, because in my mind everybody should drive like a F1 driver, I'm gonna always be disappointed. So I try to keep myself in context and in places and spaces where I can enjoy this thing that I love. I try to stay away from places where I say, hey, I'm not going to have a good experience here. And y'all can have this experience because you guys enjoy it. That's cool. I'm not against the experience. I don't belong in this place because this place isn't for me.
This is a great answer, by the way. Because you're 100% right without telling me actually how you feel about the shits. But no, you're right. You're right. And I say this to myself often, and it's sad, but it's not. It's sad, like, it's managing expectations. It's like, hey, here's another example. It's like rap. It's like, the hottest rapper might not be good at rapping at all. They might just be mumbling. But why would I get mad at that when we have rappers we like and enjoy who are great with the words making music? Just go consume that. And then my response would be, well, I mean, but they say they're a rapper and everybody thinks they're a rapper. That's not really rap. And then it sounds like your response is like, but who cares? Like, who cares what they think? Because we know what rap is, we know what hip hop music is, and we know where to get it. So if it's not the most popular, who cares? Because we're really here to consume what we like, and what we like is still going on, whether it's popular or not, whether it's, the most visible or not. That doesn't matter, because, like, we're not enjoying something because it's the most visible. We're enjoying something because it's what we like, regardless of how popular it is, album sales, all that. And, yes, it would be great if the best rapper we know, because they're technical, because they believe in the culture, is also the most popular, but that's not reality, because that's not consumerism. The best hamburger, the best hamburger spot isn't the most popular. No shout to any, no diss to any of them, because if you want to sponsor me, that's cool. But it's not about popularity. when it comes to the art form, and we just have to keep that in perspective.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah. And once again, I think I'll say this. I wasn't always like this perspective I have now was not always my perspective. Very early when I was learning to DJ, I understood DJing specifically through a hip hop DJ context. So when people presented outside of that, I was like, oh man,
that's why I ain't DJing. That's trash.
Even if it wasn't bad, like it was like, yo, like how you sitting down? Like how you sitting down and DJing?
Yeah.
Or like how you have space between like the music, or how you just fade in and out. It's not wrong or bad. It just my understanding of it at that time was very specific to hip hop DJing.
Yeah.
And as I grew and understood, like, all right, there's this hip hop DJ culture and subcultures in it, and then there's just DJing in the term of like playing music. So I tell people all the time, it's like I can play basketball. When I was younger, I won't say pretty good, but I was good. I wasn't great or nothing, but I was good. But like I played basketball because I enjoyed it. I had fun. I was relatively good at it, but I wasn't a baller. Unless I was playing basketball, you wouldn't see me with a ball. We know ballers. Like no matter what they do, they always got a ball, or they can't walk to the garbage can without crossing. Like those are ballers. We know dancers who like they can't walk. They dance everywhere. Every movement is dancing. Like then there's dancers or people who can dance. So for me, it's like there's going to be people who say they're DJs. It's not for me to say you are or aren't. But at the same time, if you're going to say I'm a DJ, or I'm a carpenter, or I'm a insert whatever, and then when I see your work in that, and I'm like, oh, well, if that's the type of carpentry you do,
that you do,
I don't want you building me chopsticks, let alone a fucking stair step.
Right. And I think, me and Trav always talk about Clark, recipes of Clark, and his opinion on what a DJ is, how people just throw it on their name. And I think what might be missing from that thought is that because we hold him in such high regard, and we tend to agree with what he says about DJing, that still doesn't apply to everybody. Like that just means that to us, to Clark, to us, DJing means a certain thing. You call yourself a DJ, that doesn't align from what I think, but that's from your perspective, you're DJing, and that's fine. You know what? I'm glad we had this conversation. This really helps me.
You feel good?
Absolutely. Because the same thing, I'll say this. I don't know if I ever said this on camera, but about my content. I know a lot of y'all be out there hating. And I always say, like, if you don't like what I'm doing content-wise, because you don't understand what I'm trying to do with it. And so it might be whack to you because you don't understand the perspective and where it's going. So the same thing applies to people that call themselves DJing in their DJ career. Like, I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't call that DJing. But from your perspective, if what you're trying to do accomplishes your goal, then I gotta respect that. Like, it would be the same. I would feel the same way if somebody says, "Oh, I don't know why Burn has all those followers. The shit he be doing is whack." That's like me saying, "I don't know why so DJ gets booked for all these gigs. What they do is whack." It's like,
but they're getting booked.
They're getting booked.
Yeah.
So what you should probably figure out is what they're doing that's working, and how you can incorporate it in what you do without compromising what you consider being DJing, and how to marry the two. And then that way, and then once again, like, you'd only be upset with that if your goal is to have followers or to get paid $1,000 or to be the most popular thing. If that's not your goal, then why are you upset that they're getting that you're not, or they're not even that you're not getting it, but like
the fact that they are is what the problem.
Yeah, like this is a random comparison, but LaRussell's getting a lot of flack online now because he signed that deal with Rock Nation, and people saying his music is whack. I'm thinking like that got to be just hate, because like he been making his music forever, nobody said anything, but now he got signed to Rock Nation, and because you're an artist or because your homie's a rapper, you're like, he don't deserve that, he trash. And it's just like, maybe you should just figure out what he did right and then apply that to whatever. And that might even be a music thing. It might be a success thing. It might be somebody.
It's a words thing. So here's my rant time.
Okay, let's get
Dun, dun, dun.
ready.
Words mean things, and too often, and kind of as time has gone on and different factors that influence it, like words are kind of just used, and we don't push people to be responsible or accountable to the words they choose to use, and then people don't always choose the words that properly articulate what it is they're trying to say. So a lot of times it'd be like, Russell's whack. Like, I don't think he's whack if he's getting signed. Now, being whack and I don't like his music are not the same thing. But if how you speak, that's things you don't like are all whack, then like that, you're just speaking in the way you speak. But it doesn't translate or articulate to other people what it is you're really saying, generally speaking. I use this example all the time. I don't like cooked leaves. Cabbage, kale, spinach. Like, you cook a leaf, I don't care. If your grandma made it, like, she may be a beautiful, wonderful person, I don't want it.
Krate doesn't eat vegetables. That's
not
crazy.
true. I eat vegetables. Just
as much candy as he eats, I'm not surprised he doesn't eat cooked leaves then.
But listen, you give me a salad, I'll smash a salad.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
Pause if applicable.
Yo.
But like salad, it's cool.
Cooked leaves.
Cook the leaves, no problem. No, I don't want them.
That's crazy.
So I use that as an example of, it's not necessarily like it's that they're whack. They're just not for me. Or when you move, once again, that's just an example of how I'm intentional on how I articulate things. Because then it's like, oh, you need to try my grandma. Like, nah, because now I'm like, you pushing me to like disrespect your grandma. Because It's not about your grandma.
Yeah.
I don't like this thing. That doesn't mean her greens aren't good. No one's greens are good to me because I don't like greens.
Right.
So that's one thing. And I think also social media has played a heavy role in it, but the need to have a title for all of it. Yeah. I enjoy playing the guitar. I can do things with the guitar. I have incorporated guitar in some of my productions. I've had some of the guitar playing that I've done in some of my productions be part of awards and just, but at no time do I ever call myself a guitar player. I can enjoy painting or sitting down and maybe coloring or doing things, but I'm not a visual artist. So I think that too often, for several reasons, we have this habit of taking a title and the title becomes like the thing that we have to now like hold. Like, we can't like now that I'm calling myself this thing, I'm tied to like now having to defend it.
Yeah.
Whether it's because I needed to affirm myself or to validate myself, or I just like, that's kind of the context of the space I'm always moving in. So I think that's what I should do.
Yeah.
People can enjoy fucking around with music, and you can love music, and like I got plenty of friends who got full setups, love music. They dabble with blending and mixing and stuff, but like, they're not DJs, and I don't mean that as a diss. Like, they're not like trying to be a DJ, but they enjoy music and they enjoy like the creative and the challenge and the whatever of putting music together. Will they one day put out a mix or do a show? Possibly. Have I had homies who I've like, yo, here's a stylus. You got a record player at the house that you can't use. Here's a stylus. Here's a cartridge. Here's this. So I have helped folks who want to venture into the space of DJing, but they're not doing it to become DJs or because like, yo, I'm a DJ now. Because now too often I see us, and I say us in a general sense, take these titles or take on these roles in an identity context. And now, because I'm saying I'm this thing, I have to defend it, and not defend it by like my desire to do it in a way that affirms or respects, or sometimes people really have no idea of the culture context of it. It's just like, and once again, I'm trying to not be judgmental, but be honest. But once again, it's like, if I say I'm a whatever, from a psychological aspect, I now have to defend that. I have to protect it. And that's not always aligned with my skill set or what my values are. Or like we got plenty of people who call themselves photographers or models or DJs or I'm a safe space for women or whoever. And we were like, I got some questions about what you call safe. So just saying I'm the thing and being or doing the thing aren't the same. But once again, which is the easiest of all those things? To say I'm the thing or to do the thing, then let people see that I'm the thing.
Right. That has to be a great place to wrap it up because that is perfect as far as I often say to myself, like, I say this privately because I don't like to go online and hate because there's enough of that going on. It's like when people say, when people tell me they're a DJ, I think they're trying to tell me that they do what I do, and I'm looking like, no, you don't. But it's not on me to correct them because from their perspective, they're a DJ, I'm a DJ, and that's fine. Because at the end of the day, my goal is not to change that person's mind or to correct them. It's really just to do what I can to respect the culture. So, before we get out of here, because for the first time ever, the camera's about to overheat. Crazy. Because it's hot in here. Hot topics.
Dropping bars.
Can you plug the things you got going on at Cure?
Sure. Every second Saturday. I'm over here following your blooper.
I don't know what day. We're there on a monthly basis.
That's my blooper. So every second Saturday, we have the Groove Gathering. The Groove Gathering is about the people, the environment, the space coming together, healthy community, enjoying good vibes. Every month has a different theme per se. So, we just wrapped up our February edition. Of course, 14th of February is Valentine's Day. So we did a lot of love songs, whether you had a lover, met a lover, or, just came in by yourself and wanted to hear some great music. We did the love thing. Of course, February is also Black History Month. So I did snippets of a show I do every year called the Black Power Mixtape. Just playing music from across generations that just celebrated all facets of blackness. And of course, February is also Dilla month. So we did some Dilla stuff. So that's every second Saturday at Cure Coffee and Cocktails. Shouts out to Jason and Sean and all the folks down there that create a great space for not just myself, but a lot of other folks to come in and just build community, play some music and have a great time. And yeah, so that's every second Saturday. I guess while I'm plugging stuff also, Fight Forever. We are approaching March 2026, which marks 10-year anniversary. Unfortunately, March 23rd, 2016, we lost the one and only Phife, Malik Taylor, Phife Dawg of Tribe Called Quest, coming up on the 10-year anniversary of his passing. So, of course, I had to be sure I threw on this shirt. Phife is one of those artists I've been listening to since I was very young. And even though specifically in Tribe Called Quest, Q-Tip got a lot of the kind of, I don't want to quite call it fame, but Q-Tip got a lot of the attention. But Phife was always like a kindred spirit with me. I never had a chance to meet him, but I want to say, once again, rest in peace, Malik Taylor, a.k.a. Phife Dawg. Shouts out to my brother, DJ Roster Root, and all the folks of the Taylor family and beyond that keep Phife's legacy alive. So I want to be sure that I represent for Phife, represent for the family and the supporters of Phife. And 24/7, 365, KrateDigga.com, KrateDigga.com. We got music, we got visuals, we got tutorials, we got documentaries, we got the merch site, and much, much more. So hit up the website, check it out. I'm sure I could talk about other stuff, but it's not my podcast.
Every second Saturday at Cure, every first Saturday at Cure, every last Friday at Cure. Yeah, Cure's a great spot. Hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully you learned something. I'm DJ Byrne. That's Krate Digga. We out of here.
One.
Before the camera cut off.